ज्ञानातिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा गदामह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। हे कृष्णा कर्ण सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्ता राधा कान्ता नमस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरंगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवसादि गौर भक्तवृंदा। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Okay, so how many of you memorized invocation mantra? Please raise your hand. Let's listen. Om Purnamada. Hare Krishna. Sapna. Okay, Sapna, you can unmute. Okay. Hare Krishna.
Om
Yes.
पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णम् उदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णम् आदाय पूर्णम् एवावशिष्यते.
Very nice. Excellent. Vandana Mataji. Yes, very nice.
हरे कृष्ण माताजी।
Hare Krishna.
ओम पूर्णमदा पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णम् आदाय पूर्णम् एवावशिष्यते।
Very nice. Thank you, Mataji. Sneha Josh, Priyadarshini Mataji.
नमस्ते माताजी। ओम पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते।
Very nice. Thank you, Mataji. Sneha Joshi Mataji.
ओम पूर्णमदा पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते।
Very nice. Thank you, Mataji. Swati Mataji.
ओम पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। हरे कृष्ण।
Very nice. Thank you. Usha Mataji.
ओम पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते।
Very nice. Thank you, Mataji. Uma Mataji. Then Neeti Mataji.
ओम हरे कृष्ण माताजी।
Yes, Hare Krishna. Yes, Uma Mataji.
ओम पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते।
Very nice. Thank you, Mataji. Neeti Mataji.
ओम पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते।
Very nice. Thank you, Mataji. Madhukar, Hare Krishna.
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Madhukar Prabhu, Hare Krishna. Yes.
Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnam Udachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Avashishyate.
Very nice. Thank you. Gayatri Mataji. Gayatri KS Mataji.
हरे कृष्ण माताजी। ओम पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते।
Very nice. Vibha.
हरे कृष्ण माताजी।
हरे कृष्ण।
ओम पूर्णमदा पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णम् उदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णम् एवावशिष्यते।
Very nice. Thank you. Vijaya Kanan Mataji. Amazing.
हरे कृष्ण माताजी। ओम पूर्णमद पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते।
Very nice. Thank you, Mataji. Amazing. So all of you memorized in one day. Amazing. Any of my co-hosts other than Vibha? Okay, please memorize. This first verse is like a song. So Isa Upanishad Mantra 1 today. Which
Mataji, we can't
No,
hear
no
you.
sound,
Oh, I
Mataji.
got muted. Sorry. Utkarsh, Hare Krishna, yes. You want to chant? Okay. Vinakshi Mataji, yes.
Mataji, you are asking about deities, right? So Radha Madhav of Mayapur.
Yes, Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. Yes, Utkarsh, you want to chant?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
Om Purnamida Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudashyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Evavashishyate.
Very nice. Thank you so much. Very nice. I feel very happy when you all chant. So many times, Prabhupada said Sanskrit verses are written in such way that they get memorized. They are like song. And if you hear 7, 8 times, you should be able to grasp it. So Radha Madhav from Mayapur, Darshan, let's pay obeisances to our Radha Govinda and Srila Prabhupada. What did we do yesterday? I didn't make a slide for somebody this time. So what did we do yesterday? We studied that Krishna is complete and perfect. Because he is complete and perfect, anything that comes out of Krishna is also complete in itself. But and anything that comes out of him complete, but then he also remains complete. Even after giving rise to so many complete entities, Krishna himself remains complete. And we discussed on that. But all kind of incompleteness is practiced or is experienced because of, why do we think that we are incomplete, or there are things which are incomplete? Why do we get that experience? Because of, yes, complete the sentence. Because of all kinds of, you can write, or yes, Sita Mataji, because of
illusion, Mataji.
Because of illusion, that's a materialistic life, is an illusion.
Attachment for the materialistic things
Attachment for the materialistic things.
and not satisfied.
Due
Okay.
to
Lack of knowledge.
Vibha, 1 second. Chitra Mataji, please go ahead.
due to lack of knowledge of the complete whole.
Very nice. Yes, and then people are writing in the chat, because of incomplete knowledge of the complete. All kind of incompleteness is experienced because of incomplete knowledge of the complete. Otherwise, everything is complete. Very nice. So those were the 4 things we studied. Now today is mantra 1. Dr. Paddy, welcome. So nice to see you after so many days. I think is your wife here as well? No.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hi, Krishna.
I got interested to listen again Upanishad from you.
Thank you, Prabhu. Welcome. My pleasure.
Yeah,
So, Isa Upanishad mantra 1. I'm going to chant, and then 4 other people will get a chance. And then this is a 3-page puppet. So we will see if today or tomorrow who else can chant. But please practice. In Bhakti Shastri, it is said that memorize invocation mantra and mantra 1. Okay, so all of you I will encourage. Isha Vashyam Idam Sarvam Yatkincha Jagatavyay Jagat Jagat Avyam Jagat Tena Taktena Bhunjita Magrida Kashyasvidhanam. I will chant one more time, so grasp the words. Isha Vashyam Idam Sarvam Yatkincha Jagatavyayam Jagat Tena Taktena Bhunjita Magrida Kashyasvidhanam. Okay, so who has not chanted today, please raise your hand. Who wants to chant? Smita Mataji.
ईशावासिदं सर्वं यत्किञ्चित् जगतं जगत् तेन त्यक्तेन भुञ्जीथा मा गृहस्कस्य स्विद्धनम्.
Very nice. Thank you, Mataji. Swati Mataji. Oh no, I'm sorry. Sneha Joshi Mataji. Swati Mataji chanted already.
Idam sarvam yatkinch jagatayam jagat tena tyaktena bhunjita magadha kasya svidhanam.
Very nice. Thank you. And everyone can chant behind the mic also. Please chant. Yes, Roja Mataji.
Savasyam idam sarvam yatkincha jagatam jagat tena tyakteena bhunjita
Ma gradah kasya svidhanam.
Very nice. Thank you. Geeta Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hi Krishna.
ईशावश्यम् इदं सर्वं यत्किञ्च जगत्यं जगत् तेन तक्तेन भुञ्जिता मा गृध्र कश्यस्विद्धनम्.
Okay,
Hare
thank you
Krishna.
Mataji. Hi Krishna. I think I'll give chance to Shanti and Meenakshi Mataji. Okay, Shanti Mataji, then Meenakshi Mataji.
Hare
Go ahead.
Krishna. ईशावश्यम् इदं सर्वं यत्किञ्च जगत्यं जगत् तेन त्यक्तेन भुञ्जिता मग्रधा कस्य स्विद्धनम्.
Very nice. Meenakshi Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Ishavashyamidam sarvam yatkincha jagatyam jagat tena tyaktena bhunjita magrida kasya svidhanam.
Very nice. Thank you Mataji. Okay, so let's see what it means. Everything. This is a very practical verse. Everything animate or inanimate that is within the universe is controlled and owned by the Lord. One should therefore accept only those things necessary for himself, which are set aside as his quota, and one should not accept things knowing well to whom they belong. This is how Shastras talk to us. They tell us what to do and then they tell us what not to do. All the time. Every statement you read is going to be what to do and then what not to do. So everything, animate or inanimate, that is within the universe is controlled and owned by the Lord. One should, therefore, should is the order, it's an order, accept only those things necessary for himself, which are set aside as his quota. And one should not, another order, accept things knowing well to whom they belong. Okay, I'll give the overview and then we will read. So some analogies are used in this verse: heat and light and fire. Supreme Being is often compared to the fire, and everything organic and inorganic is compared to the heat and light of that fire. So fire has energy, right? Two energy, heat and light. So the fire per se, which possesses heat and light, is compared to Krishna or Supreme Being for analogy. Just as fire distributes energy in the form of heat and light, the Lord displays his energy in different ways, remaining the ultimate controller, sustainer, and dictator of everything. When we separate from Krishna, we perish. Therefore, we should be intelligent enough to know that except for the Lord, no one is the proprietor of anything. It is a mistake to think that anyone else is the proprietor. Nobody is the proprietor other than Krishna of anything around us, even our own body. I think I discussed this at some point, maybe with all of you, that in 10th canto, there is this conversation. I want to say Narad Muni is saying it, but I will double check. That who does this body belong to? You see, we are very proud of our bodies, that, oh, my body is so able, I have so much good brain substance, my intelligence is so sharp. But there's this analysis that who does this body belong to? Does this body belong to the mother? Because the mother gives birth. Or does this body belong to mother's father, the maternal grandfather? Because he can think that my daughter gave birth to this child, so she's my daughter. It goes on further, that or does this body belong to the fire? Because after the soul leaves the body is offered to the fire in some cultures. Or does it belong to the earth? Because some people bury the body. Or does it belong to the animals, the wild animals? Because some culture body is thrown away to be eaten by the animals and it becomes their stool. So like that, there is this analysis given that who does this body ultimately belong to? Okay, so the verdict that comes out from that conversation in 10th canto is it belongs to Krishna. So really the proprietor of the body is Krishna. And we should not falsely claim. And our quota will be defined whatever is required in service to Krishna. Okay, it's not that I can have unlimited. Then I am breeding my greed. I'm not meeting my need. Individual quota. Everyone has different quota. This is the example given by Srila Prabhupada in this verse that we will read. Cow gives milk, but she does not drink that milk. She eats grass and straw, and her milk is designated as food for human beings. Okay, so she's giving milk, but she doesn't even drink a drop of it. Baby calf drinks, but not the cow who gives milk. And there's so many examples given. I just took 2 out. Example 2 is the tiger does not eat rice and wheat or drink cow's milk because he has been given food in the shape of animal flesh. So that's his quota. For human beings, Prabhupada has written that their quota, to become a vegetarian is at least being human. That is the quota of the human being. Okay, then we'll read. So this is my son in Gitanagari. So he goes up on the mountain. We have Govardhan Hill there with the boys to herd the cows, to fix in the break. I take them there and we live over there. And then he falls asleep. And then this cow, we know this cow is retired. We have retired her. So she came and started, such an affectionate photograph, right? Started like mending his head. And one of the devotees took this picture for me. Okay, so this is the quota. There's so much affection we can see between this boy and this boy is my son and this cow. So Ishavasya principle, we have to know whom does it belong. So we have to have a God-centered concept. How much is my quota? We have to have a God-centered concept for that. For example, our dwelling, which is made of earth, wood, stone, iron, cement, and so many other materials. If we think in terms of Isopanishad, we must know that we cannot produce any of these building materials ourselves. We can simply bring them together and transform them into different shapes by our labor. We cannot give rise to these materials. It's not possible without the help of Krishna. If someone can say that, oh, we can make it possible in the lab, but for making it possible in the lab, also we need Krishna's energy. We need intelligence. We need fire, right? Whatever chemical substances we need to do anything is actually given to us by Krishna. We are just simply bringing it together, and then we take the whole credit. This is a very menial concept of living, that we are not able to give credit to someone who it really belongs to. So Ishavasya principle teaches us to live life in God-centered concept. A laborer cannot claim to be a proprietor of a thing just because he has worked hard to manufacture it. For example, if there is a carpenter and the carpenter works in your house and makes you a very big, sophisticated wooden carvings or furniture or something, and at the end he says, because I carved it, it is mine. But that's wrong. Because he carved it, it still does not belong to him. It still belongs to the proprietor. Like that, because we are living in this, because I have Krishna gave me the money to buy this particular stuff, because I am living in my house or wherever, or because I'm living here, or because I'm living in this country, or because I have this knowledge, or because I have that skill, doesn't mean that I become the proprietor. Because if we live like that, then we are fanning our false ego. But if we live life in the concept of Krishna, that Krishna, thank you for giving me, please give me intelligence how I can utilize it in your service. Then that is Ishavasya principle. Okay, which deities are these? You know, the websites are written. I should have noted. So, who knows what deities are these? What are their names? Even though they're from Vrindavan, but what are their names? Nobody knows in this class? Not even one person? Krishna Balram, correct. So Krishna Balram and Vrindavan. Yes, Vanda Mataji, you know it?
Radha Shyamsundar and Krishna Balram.
This is just Krishna Balram. Yes, thank you, Mataji. Yes, Radha Shyamsundar, Krishna Balram Mandir. Yes, so Srila Prabhupada established Krishna Balram worship in Raman Reti in Vrindavan. So the place where the temple is that land is called, that area is called Raman Reti. That is the place where Krishna Balram used to have their pastimes of playing. That is why that land is called Raman Reti, and that is why the deities, primary deities are Krishna Balram over there. So what happens if we don't follow our quota? What happens? Let's see what it says. So it means it's fighting like cats and dogs is not a human quota. Cats and dogs do not incur sinful reactions for fighting, but man does. So what happens is, there's an example given in Nectar of Instruction. Yeah, Nectar of Instruction. That if we put a bag of rice on the street, a bird will come and take whatever it needs. But a human being will come and takes whatever it needs and also takes something for storage. So that leads to greed, that we go on overstocking. I'm not saying we should not be prepared for a calamity, but in general, we are overstocking our houses. We are overstocking our lives with things which we don't need. So time to get rid of. Krishna consciousness means simple life. I'm not saying live in a hut. No, but there will be something in someone else's house, even in my own house, which we really don't need, but it is there. So that is superseding the quota. We can live there. So fighting like cats and dogs is not a human quota. If the man uses quota of the animals, he becomes an animal. This example is given by Prabhupada in the verse where he's describing about the diet. So animal is tiger, dog, they eat the flesh. But if the man starts eating flesh, then this is what happens. And because we are not following Ishavasya principle, there are nuclear bombs invented. One country is sitting on the edge to bomb another country, even kill the innocent public. Innocent public usually has no fault. It's the government which is at fault. But because of government's fault, everyone suffers. So these things will not be needed if someone is living in Ishavasya principle. It's a very practical verse for our day-to-day living, and also living as a unit in a community, in society, or in a country, or in the world as per se. So Sri Arsha Upanishad cannot advise cats and dogs, but a man through the line of bona fide acharyas, because cats and dogs are just going to fight. Okay, so then we have questions. So these were the three principal things that one has to live and recognize what is my quota, and live by Ishavasya principle, and what happens if we don't follow our quota. And then let's read very quickly. So one person I was thinking may get a chance to read 3-4 paragraphs today. Okay, if you have not yet spoken today and you want to read, please raise your hand. If you have already spoken once, then please give chance to others. Yes, Sita Mataji, you have a question?
No, Mataji.
Okay. Ishavasya. Let me just bring the point. And you can keep your hands raised so I can see who's to read next. Sudha Mataji, please go ahead.
ईशावास्यम् इदं सर्वं यत् किञ्च जगत्यं जगत् तेन त्यक्तेन भुञ्जिता मा घृद कस्य स्विद्धम्. I'm sorry, Mataji, I have issues with reading Sanskrit very fluently. Just wanted to okay.
No worries. Can we read the word by word, because there are some questions from beginnings.
Yes. Isha, by the Lord. Vashyam, controlled. Idam, this. Sarvam, all. Yat, whatever. Kim, it, is. Cha, and. Jagatyam, which is within the universe. Jagat, all that is animate or inanimate. Tena, by him. Tyaktena, set apart quota. Bhunjita, must you accept. Ma, do not. Grada, make into use. Kashya, swith, whom does it belong? Dhanam, things necessary.
Very nice. Thank you, Mataji. Translation.
Translation. Everything animate or inanimate that is within the universe is controlled and owned by the Lord. One should therefore accept only those things necessary for himself, which are set aside as his quota, and one must not accept other things, knowing well to whom they belong. Purport. The Vedic knowledge is infallible because it comes down through the perfect disciplic succession of spiritual masters, beginning with the Lord himself. The Vedic knowledge is received from a transcendental source, and the first word was spoken by the Lord himself. The words spoken by the Lord are called apaurashya, not delivered by any person of the mundane world. A living being of the mundane world has 4 defects, which are that he must commit mistakes, he must sometimes be illusioned, he must try to cheat others, and he is endowed with imperfect senses. With the 4 principles of imperfection, one cannot deliver perfect information in the matter of all-pervading knowledge. The Vedas are not known like that. The Vedic knowledge was originally imparted into the heart of Brahma, the first created living being, and Brahma in his turn disseminated the knowledge to his sons and disciples, who have continued the process down through history. The Lord being Purnam, or all perfect, there is no chance of his being subjected to the laws of material nature. While the living entities and inanimate objects are all controlled by the laws of nature, and thus ultimately by the potency of the Lord, this Ishwar is a part of the Yajur Veda, and as such, it contains information as to the proprietorship of all things that exist within the universe. This point is confirmed by the Bhagavad Gita in the 7th chapter, where Para and Apara Prakriti are discussed. The element of nature, earth, fire, water, air, sky, mind, intelligence, and ego all belong to the inferior or material energy of the Lord. Whereas the living being, the organic energy, is the superior energy, the Para Prakriti of Lord. Both the Prakritis or energies are emanations of the Lord, and ultimately, he is the controller of everything that exists. There is nothing in the universe which does not belong either to the Para or the Apara Prakriti, and therefore everything is under the proprietary rights of the Supreme Being.
Okay, Mataji, let's take a break. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Read.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. So there are 3 things discussed in translation. Everything, every single thing, animate or inanimate, that is moving, that is within the universe, is controlled and owned by the Lord. He is the owner and he is the controller, number 1. Number 2, one should therefore accept only these things necessary for himself, which are set aside as his quota. Number 3, one must not accept other things, knowing well to whom they belong. So these are the 3 things. Okay, so we are discussing the first thing. Everything animate or inanimate that is within the universe is controlled and owned by the Lord. That has been discussed. That how Krishna is a proprietor. And how Vedic knowledge is the final word. For final and first and final word of everyone, every single living entity, not just so-called Hindu or Muslim, every single living entity, not even just human beings. Every single living entity is controlled by the Vedic knowledge. Vedic knowledge is not under the control of, is not written by any mundane scholar. What are the defects? I'm going to hide it out. So we have discussed this in invocation mantra. What are the 4 defects of a human being?
Committing mistakes.
Okay.
Illusion.
Imperfect senses.
Vibha, let's let him talk, because if someone is talking, just give them chance, and then
Being in illusion.
You will get a chance. Yes.
And the senses are not they're not perfect. And
committing mistakes, imperfect senses, illusion, and then yes, Vibha, you can help.
Okay, my child will
Mataji,
help.
it wasn't me who was answering.
Sapna, was it? Was it Sapna?
Yes.
I always called you Vibha. Sorry, Sapna.
It's fine.
Cheating.
Teacher, I say one. So I really didn't mean to interrupt.
No. Help. Fourth. We are missing 4th.
Cheating, Mataji.
Cheating.
Very nice. Very nice. Thank you so much. Yes. People are writing in the chat. So Guru Murthy wrote 3. Sunisha Mataji wrote everything. Priyadarshini Mataji wrote 1. Sri Lata Mataji wrote everything. Very nice. Oh, Priyadarshini Mataji, you wrote 2 more before. Very nice. So because we have all these imperfections, we cannot write something which is perfect about the perfect. We cannot, because we don't know ourselves. How can we know God? It's not possible. That is why we have to rely on the Vedic knowledge. And Vedic knowledge is what kind of knowledge? What kind of praman is it? What kind of Shabda praman, Anuman praman, or Prataksha praman? What kind of a praman is it?
Shabda Praman.
Okay. Yes, Shabda praman. Or it is a and what kind of a process of knowledge is it? Yes, raise your hand, please. What kind of a knowledge, process of knowledge? And I'm reading in the chat. We are revising the invocation. What kind of, it is Shabda Praman, very nice, or Shruti Praman. But what kind of process? Is it inductive or deductive? Vedic knowledge is inductive or deductive? Deductive. Vedic knowledge is deductive. You have to remember D for D, disciplic succession and deductive. Okay, it comes down. Inductive is going above, like you have to do the experiment and then get the result. But Vedic knowledge, already everything is done. You start with acceptance of the inference and then go from there. So deductive knowledge. So because of all these things, we cannot. And Krishna is called what? There is a question list. Aparushya. What does it mean? Not delivered. The words spoken by Lord are called Apurushya, Apurushya. How will you say this? Aparushya. Apurushya, correct. Apurushya, not delivered by any person of the mundane world. Okay, Krishna's words are Apurushya, Krishna is Purnam, and Krishna, for worship of Krishna, Isopnishad is given, and it is mentioned. The book that we are reading is a part of Yajurveda. Yajurveda is a Veda which contains information as to the proprietorship of all things that exist within the universe. Like Samaveda is a compilation of the prayers, like very nice prayers. Like that, Yajurveda is a compilation of information of all the proprietorship of everything within the universe. Then we belong to Para Prakriti or Apara Prakriti? What Prakriti we belong to? Krishna's what Prakriti? What potency? Para or Apara?
We are Apara, Mataji, and natural elements are Para.
We are Apara? I thought we are Para. Nothing in this universe. Therefore, everything is, what is Krishna saying? That organic energy is superior Para Prakriti. Okay, living beings, organic energy is the superior energy, the Para Prakriti. Apara is inferior energy. Okay, Radha, Muralidhar and Mataji, please go ahead. Where are you? Mataji, you wanted to read? Go ahead, Mataji. You can unmute yourself.
Yes, ma'am.
The Supreme Being,
the absolute personality of Godhead, being the complete person, has the complete and perfect intelligence to adjust everything by his different potencies. The Supreme Being is often compared with fire, and everything organic and inorganic. And inorganic is compared with the heat and light of the fire. The fire distributes energy in the form of heat and light, and likewise, the Lord displays his energy in different ways, and he remains the ultimate controller, sustainer, and dictator over everything. He is full of all potencies, the knower of everything, the benefactor of everyone, and is full of all inconceivable opulences, power, wealth, fame, beauty, knowledge, and renunciation. One should therefore be intelligent enough to know that except for the Lord, no one is the proprietor of anything. One should accept only the things which are set aside by the Lord as his quota. The cow, for example, gives milk, but she does not drink the milk. Her milk is designated as food for the human being. The cow eats grass and straw, but does not drink her own milk. Such is the arrangement of the Lord, and we should be satisfied with the things that have been very kindly set aside for us by Him. We should always consider to whom the things that possess actually belong to.
Okay,
Take for
Mataji,
example,
Mataji,
our
your
dwelling
audio,
has so many other material things.
Radha Mataji, your audio is not correct, is not coming out. But anyway, we'll discuss this. Thank you, Mataji. So first part we discussed. First part of the translation is that Krishna is the supreme proprietor, only proprietor of animate and inanimate objects. And in that category, we discussed that Krishna's words are final, first and final, apurushya, apurushaya, apurushaya. Yes, apurushaya. And Krishna is Purnam because he's beyond all these four defects. And Krishna has lot of potencies, but his potencies are divided into three main categories: internal, external, and marginal. And in the external potency, it comes the apara prakriti, which is fallible, means earth, water, fire, air, ether. And in the marginal potency and internal potency comes the para prakriti, which is living entity. Okay, and then we are going to start with the next. Then Krishna is also compared with the fire. You know, one way of reading Prabhupada books is to take note of analogies. I have a list of all the analogies used in Isopanishad. I can share, even in Bhagavad Gita, I have a list. So, but you can make notes of all these analogies that Prabhupada is using. First analogy in Isopanishad Mantra 1 of a fire. Krishna is compared to the fire, and all his energies are compared to light and heat. Okay, and then the second part of the translation is that one must know what their quota is. That's what he's discussing. It's been started from here. One should therefore be intelligent enough to know that except for Lord, no one is a proprietor of anything. One should accept only the things which are set aside by the Lord as his quota. And Prabhupada is giving an example of a cow. And then Prabhupada is saying that cow gives milk but does not drink milk. Cow eats the straw and grass but gives milk. So the cow's quota is fixed. They are aware. I don't know how come animals are aware and human beings are confused. It's not possible. Actually, we are aware, but we actually tend to overshadow our greed. Okay, so who wants to read now? Who wants to read now? Please check your audio before you, and whoever has already spoken, please don't raise your hand right now.
Mataji, can I read?
Vibha, 1 second. Uday, Prabhu, go ahead.
Yes, Mataji. One should therefore, from there only, right, Mataji?
Take for example our dwelling house.
Okay, take for example our dwelling house, which is made of earth, wood, stone, iron, cement, and so many other material things. If we think in terms of Sri Isopanishad, then we must know that we cannot produce any of the above mentioned building materials ourselves. We can simply bring them together and transform them into different shapes by our labor. A laborer cannot claim to be the proprietor of a thing just because he has worked hard to manufacture it. There's always this great quarrel between the laborers and capitalists in the present day society. The quarrel has now taken an international shape and the world is in danger. Men face each other in enmity, just like cats and dogs snarling. Sri Isopanishad cannot give advice to the cats and dogs, but it delivers the message of Godhead to man through the bona fide acharyas or holy teachers. And the human race may take this Vedic wisdom from Isopanishad that no one should quarrel over material possessions. One must be satisfied by whatever privileges are given to him by the mercy of the Lord. There can be no peace if the communist or the capitalist or any other party claims to be proprietor of the resources of nature, which are entirely the property of the Lord. The capitalist cannot curb down the communist simply by political maneuvering, nor can the communist defeat the capitalists simply by fighting for the stolen bread. If they do not recognize the proprietorship of the Supreme Personality of a Godhead, then all the property which they claim to be their own is stolen, and therefore they shall be liable to punishment by the laws of the nature. The bomb is in the hands of both the communists and the capitalists, and if both do not recognize the proprietorship of the Supreme Lord, it is sure and certain that ultimately the bomb will ruin both parties. Therefore, in order to save themselves, both must follow the instruction of Sri Isopanishad and thus bring peace to the world. Human beings are not made for quarreling like cats and dogs. They must be intelligent enough to realize the importance of human life and to realize the aim of human life. The Vedic literature is meant for humanity, not for cats and dogs. Cats and dogs can kill other animals for food, and for that, there is no question of sin on their part. But if a man kills an animal for the satisfaction of his uncontrolled taste buds, he is responsible for breaking the laws of nature. Therefore, he must be punished. There is a standard of life for human beings which cannot apply to animals. The tiger does not eat rice, wheat, or cow's milk because it has been given its quota of foodstuff in the shape of animal food. There are many animals and birds who are either vegetarian or non-vegetarian, but none of them transgress the laws of nature as they have been ordained by the will of the Lord. Amongst the living beings, whether animals or birds or reptiles, there is a strict adherence to the laws of the nature, and therefore there is no question of sin for them, nor are the Vedic instructions meant for them. Human life alone then is a life of responsibility.
Very nice. Thank you, Prabhu. Very nicely read. So we are looking at the second part of the translation where Prabhupada is translating it as one should know, therefore one should know what is their quota. We should only take stuff from our quota. That is what we are discussing. So how do we know what is our quota? We have to be intelligent. There are so many examples around us. That cow, for example, first example given is the cow that drinks milk but eats straw and grass. And the second example Prabhupada gives is that the place where we live is made of all these things, earth, wood, stone, iron, cement, but we cannot be the proprietor. Krishna is the proprietor. We have to give proprietorship to Krishna. If we don't, then the same place will become a place of misery for us. We'll never be happy. People are living, I have seen in this country, people are living in very big houses. But person who comes out of the house looks so sad. So sad they look. They're living in a very mansion. Like I have seen that because some of my colleagues are very rich. The trauma surgeons and all, they're very rich. But they look so sad. Why do they look so sad? You know, you have such a big house, such good lifestyle. Why are you sad? Why are you sad? Yes, why do you think people are sad? Despite of having money and riches and comfort, why there is no satisfaction in the heart? Yes. Tell me, who is going to raise their hand? Dr. Parekh, I think you are the most, and Dr. Padi also. Yes,
Yeah.
Dr. Parekh.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Yes, Hare Krishna.
I think they never feel complete until they have devotional attitude towards the God, and this incompleteness leads to a sadness. In fact, with all the wealth and things that they have around is not sufficient to make them complete. They are all illusions.
Very nice, thank you. Reshma Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dhanavad Pranam. It's because they don't have Krishna in their lives, no Krishna consciousness. They're in the material pursuits.
Very nice.
Krishna
Thank
is
you,
not in
Mataji.
the center. Thank you, Mataji.
Yes, Dr. Padi. So see, we have leaders of our society in our class. I don't think we are recognizing them. So Dr. Parekh, Dr. Padi is a cardiac surgeon in India. He told us one time that he does heart surgeries and he does not find soul there. So honest. So he opens up the heart, but there is no soul there. But then there is soul, which we cannot see. Yes, Dr. Padi. So why are people not happy?
Yeah, happiness, actually, we are living in a paradox in our life, because happiness will come from inside, not from outside. But unfortunately, we are seeking happiness, joy, pleasure from the outside. That is where we are getting mistaken, and we are not going deep inside us, where there is enough peace, enough happiness is there. And the source of happiness and peace is always the divine element in us, and that until we find it, until we get connected to it, I think the unhappiness, pain, pleasure, pain, suffering will be the rule of life for everybody.
Very nice. Very nice. Thank you, Dr. Padi. So nice to hear you all the time. So yes, because the happiness, we are outsourcing our happiness. Can you make me happy? Can this thing make me happy? Can this person make me happy? Can this circumstances make me happy? Can this social service make me happy? Can this political service make me happy? Nothing will make you happy. Nothing will make you happy unless and until you put Krishna in the center, who gives happiness in all these activities. We are doing an activity without putting happiness in the activity. That is why, and how does the happiness come? By Krishna. For example, if I cook a very delicate, like delicacy in my kitchen, if I make like a very posh dish, I make a biryani, a vegetarian biryani with a lot of nuts in it, or I, make paneer sabji or kofta, very, very tasty looking sabjis, or so I make, okay? But I don't put salt in it. Will that sabji or some whatever I'm making, will it be relished by anybody? Will it be relished? You can type to me, tell me, will you eat that? Now don't say yes, okay? Just try to get the point. Don't argue with me. So like, why? Because the main ingredient is missing. It may be looking so decorated, so nice, but the main ingredient is missing. Like that, we are doing an activity, but we are not putting the source of happiness in that activity. We are dealing with dead matter. But I am a living entity. I'm a living entity. I need something living. I need something which can give me satisfaction, and that is Krishna. Okay, so Krishna, Upanishad is for human beings, not for cats and dogs. Cats and dogs are very busy in getting their quota. They have no time to sit down and listen to Upanishad or Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam or chant Hare Krishna. But they don't incur sin for it. They don't. Human beings incur sin. If a human being is not studying these scriptures, is not elevating their existence after having achieved this body, then they are responsible. We are responsible. We can possess anything if it is needed for the service of Krishna, anything. But if it is going to lead me to forget Krishna, then we should not possess anything. Goes for any single thing. Yes, Priya B. Mataji, we can read. Then Prabhupada is giving example of capitalist and communist. So practical. This is a very practical verse.
Yeah.
Capitalist
Hare
and
Krishna
communist.
Mataji. Danvat Pranam.
Danvat
Yeah.
Pranam.
So
Mataji,
you have
there's
already
a
covered.
lot of noise around you.
Yeah, so you have already covered the whole part. The main thing is we have to do things favorable for Krishna and not for our own sense gratification.
Mataji, I'm gonna mute you. Don't mind because there's noise around you.
Yeah, okay. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So human being is not meant for quarreling like cats and dogs. We have to realize the importance of the gift that is given to us. This is a gift. It's a gift. For example, if I give someone a gift of a diamond watch, I give them, and then they don't value it, they throw it in the garbage. So such a big loss. Like that, we have a human life. It's a gift given by Krishna to the soul. We are not the body, we are the soul. Which body is given to us by Krishna as a gift, and I am not using it properly. I'm throwing it in the garbage. Why? Why? There's so much happiness. Why not become intelligent enough to live joyfully and to die joyfully? Okay, who wants to read? Standard of Human Life. Vibha, you wanted to read?
Yes, Mataji.
Please go ahead.
There is a standard of life for human beings which cannot apply to the animals. The tiger does not eat rice, wheat, or cow's milk because it has been given its quota of foodstuff in the shape of animal food. There are many animals and birds who are either vegetarian or non-vegetarian, but none of them transgress the laws of nature as they have been ordained by the will of the Lord. Amongst the living beings, whether animals or birds or reptiles, there is strict adherence to the laws of nature, and therefore there is no question of sin for them, nor are the Vedic instruction meant for them. Human life alone, then, is a life of responsibility. It is also wrong to consider that simply by becoming a vegetarian, one can save himself from transgressing the laws of nature. Vegetables also have one life. One life is meant to feed another living being, and that is the law of nature. One should not be proud of being a strict vegetarian. The point is to recognize the Supreme Lord, and the animals have no developed consciousness to recognize the Lord, but a human being is sufficiently intelligent to take lessons from the Vedic literature and thereby know how the laws of nature are working and derive the profits out of such knowledge. If a man neglects the instruction of the Vedic literature, his life is very risky. The human being is therefore required to recognize the authority of the Supreme Lord. He must be a devotee of the Lord. He must offer everything to the service of the Lord and partake of only the remnants of foodstuff offered to the Lord. That will make him able to discharge his duty properly. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord directly states that he accepts the vegetable foodstuffs from the hands of a pure devotee. Therefore, a human being should not only become a strict vegetarian, but he should also be a devotee of the Lord and offer to the Lord all his food and only then partake of the prasadam or mercy of God. Such a devotee can properly discharge the duty of human life. Those who do not do so are eating only sins and thus will be subjected to the different types of distress which are the result of the various sins. The root of the sin is deliberate disobedience to the laws of nature. Through not recognizing the proprietorship of the Lord, disobedience of the laws of the nature, or disobedience to the order of the Lord will bring ruin to the human being. On the other hand, if one is sober and knows the laws of nature without being influenced by unnecessary attachment or abhorrence, he is sure to be recognized again by the Lord and thus become eligible for going back to Godhead, back to the eternal home.
Very nice. Thank you so much. So okay, we can go over very quickly. I went over 3 elements that everything animate, inanimate within this universe is controlled and owned by the Lord. And in that section, Srila Prabhupada is explaining that Krishna's words are for first and final, aparushya. And then we are not perfect because we have 4 defects, and Krishna is complete. He's all perfect within himself. We are not. We are not. In our conditioned stage, we are not. In our constitutional stage, we are. So we have to get out from conditional and get to the constitutional stage. Then there is para and apara prakriti. We belong to the para prakriti of Krishna, the superior prakriti. And the supreme being, now the supreme being is compared to the fire, and we are heat or light or energy of Krishna. We are not Krishna. We cannot become Krishna. We can never be Krishna. The other element of the translation is that one should know their quota. What is for me? For that we have to be intelligent. There are Vedic Shastras, there are Guru, there are simply people who can tell us. If there is a confusion, we can always go and refer. Okay, I cannot go and live in my neighbor's house saying that this is my own house. I have been given my own quota. Now, if someone says my quota is to live in a palace, well and good, live in a palace, but please serve Krishna there. That is what it means to be a human being. That is what it means to be like, okay, I'm interested in learning the Shastras, I'm interested in learning who am I and what is my relationship with Krishna. Until then, we are not even human beings. Srimad Bhagavatam says, Dvipad Pashu. So many examples are given in Srimad, so many examples are coming to my mind. Dvipad Pashu means two-legged animal. And they also gave example of a cow, of a camel. Camel, such a person is like a camel. By three animals are discussed: camel, ass, and a cow. So so camel is a person. Camel is an animal which eats the thorns. Okay, and the thorn cuts the tongue. It cuts its tongue. The tongue of a camel is very dry. It's written there. So the thorn cuts the tongue of the camel, the blood comes out, and the camel tastes his own blood and thinks that, oh, this thorn is very tasty. But it does not know that it is tasting its own blood. Like that, a human being, if it is not Krishna conscious or is not even trying to be Krishna conscious and goes on tasting the blood of this. So gross example, but Bhagavatam says this example, taste the material senses, they will never be happy. We have to be utterly honest within ourselves to say that I am not happy. I want something higher. I thought this thing will make me happy, but no. Okay, don't get lost. Be very honest to yourself, and Krishna is within you. Krishna will help. And Srila Prabhupada is citing so many examples. For example, of a cow. Cow's quota is to eat grass and straw. Or tiger quota is to eat the animal flesh. Okay? And even if we have this dwelling where we live, we must know that ultimate proprietor is Krishna. I'm not the ultimate proprietor. Because everything has its own time. Wherever we are living is not going to last for forever. But what will last? The ingredients. So who gave those ingredients? Krishna. So who's the ultimate proprietor? Krishna. So make your house in such a way that you can remember this. You need to remember this Ishavasya principle. That this house actually is given to me by Krishna. So ultimate it is his house. Okay, so Isopnishad instructions are only for human beings, and we should be feeling, this is called spiritual proud. Spiritual proud, I was talking about it yesterday, right? There's a difference between material proud and spiritual proud. Or pride, material pride and spiritual pride. Material pride is that pushes people away. I don't know which class I was talking about it yesterday, but material pride is, for example, if somebody is very educated or somebody is very beautiful, then that materially beautiful or materially very educated, that particular pride can isolate the people. The people who are very beautiful, then they think that there is no one who is at level to them. So they are the only one. Or people who are very educated can also think that I'm so educated, I don't belong to a company of uneducated people, right? So-called uneducated people. So that it isolates. It makes the heart very, very hard. And hard is difficult place for Krishna to sit on. So, but spiritual pride is the pride that a person thinks, I am so fortunate, Krishna gave me this chance to become Krishna conscious. And that particular person, the feature will be that they will attract others. Automatically they will attract. Like Srila Prabhupada attracted the whole world. The whole world got attracted to Prabhupada. Like, you know, the sun comes out and we look at the sun, that sun is out. Like that, Prabhupada came, everybody was attracted. That spiritual pride is needed. We need to be proud of ourselves that I'm doing this. Thank you, Krishna. Thank you. And that we have to recognize the importance and aim of human life. The other example given, number 3, is the tiger. I think I said tiger, house, cow. Then I gave one more of a camel from Bhagavatam. And then one should not be proud unnecessarily of being a vegetarian. What is the big deal? What is the big deal in being a vegetarian? There are so many animals who are vegetarian. Cow is a vegetarian. But the main point is to be Krishnatarian. Okay, and our quota is what Krishna eats. Krishna says, Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam Yome Bhaktya Prayachati. He does not say anything else. So that is my quota. What Krishna eats, I will offer to Krishna and I will partake the prasadam which is left behind by him. But why do we, this is a very detailed topic. Root of sin is a very, very detailed topic. We can spend 1 more hour discussing on this from Nectar of Devotion, chapter number 2. Bhakti-rasamrita Sindhu talks a lot about root of sin. But root of sin is avidya or ignorance. And ignorance of what? Ignorance of deliberate disobedience of the laws of nature. Deliberately I'm doing. I know I should not do it, but I still do it anyway. Thinking that nothing will happen to me. That's like a small child putting hand in the fire, thinking that the fire will not burn him or her. That is why we need Guru Sadhu Shastra. We need association of strong-minded people who are determined and resolute in their aim to become Krishna conscious. Okay, so we can take some questions. I request all of you to please memorize verse 1 also, and we will go over the summary of invocation, introduction, verse 1, and then we'll do verse 2. Oh, sorry. I have questions. I apologize. Okay, so ready to raise hands? Give the English meaning of the terms. Ishavasya. What does Ishavasya mean? Yes, Uday Prabhu. And all of you can type.
By the Lord.
The Lord. Yes. I'm just gonna go back and double check. By the Lord. Ishavasya, controlled. Ishavasya means by the Lord, controlled. So controlled by the Lord is the meaning of Ishavasya. Very nice. Thank you, Prabhu. And para and apara prakriti. Yes. Who's gonna tell me? Reshma Mataji. Para and apara prakriti.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Para is superior energy and apara is inferior.
Give me
Para
the
is
example.
human beings and apara is material like all the air, water, fire, ether, all the other elements.
Earth. Very nice. Mind, intelligence, falsico. Correct.
Thank you.
Bhagavad communism. English medium of English medium Bhagavad communism. Yes, Srila Prabhupada discussed this, capitalist and communist in the. But what is the meaning of the Bhagavad communism? Priya B. Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Actually, does that mean, you can correct me, is that we are part and parcel of the Lord and our primary duty is to love and serve Krishna? Does that mean that?
That is a very safe answer. That's a safe answer everywhere. That's a safe answer. But yes, it also means that plus something else also. Yes. Oh, Mataji, you're muted. Anyone from my co-host, Bhagavad communism? Bhagavad communism means that we are united in service to Krishna. We are all united in service to Krishna. So we are a part of the same community. Someone unmuted.
We are part of Krishna consciousness. As in yesterday's discussion, that we are also everywhere we are Krishna, and every part is complete. So we are also a part of Krishna consciousness, and within everybody the consciousness of Krishna himself dwells within us. So we all are like Vasudeva Kutumbakam. So with that consciousness, I think Bhagavad communism, what it means.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Buddy. Very nice. Yes, Vibha, you were unmuting yourself. Where is Sapna now? Is she mad at me? Is she here or not?
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Yes, Hare Krishna. Dr. Parekh.
Communism basically is where the state owns everything and individual takes only whatever is necessary for that individual. Similarly, the whole world or inmates and animates are owned by the God, and we as individuals should only take what is necessary for us.
Knowing well to whom the other things belong. Very nice.
Yes, yes.
Very nice. So Bhagavad communism also means, yes, that also it means that. Plus, if I may please be allowed to add a punchline, that we are all united in service to Krishna. We are all a part of the same community in service to Krishna. So in that way, we have to accept what belongs to my quota, knowing well to whom the other quota belongs. Apurushaya, apurushaya. Yes, apurushaya. What does this word mean, apurushaya? Niti Mataji. Niti Valavakar.
Yeah.
Mataji, I'm sorry, Mataji, if I didn't say your name properly. I apologize.
It's okay. Purush means human beings, and we all are incomplete. A Purusha is a complete Purush, and that is only Krishna. So,
Apurushya is written in the perfect first or second line itself. This one.
the words spoken by the
By
Lord,
Lord are called Purusha. Okay, so the words which are spoken by
not
Lord are
delivered by any person of the mundane world. Yes.
okay. That's the meaning. Okay, I think these were the questions I had for this particular verse. Okay, so if anyone else has any questions.